this is Sonja from My Happy Space. Welcome back at my channel. Today I'm going to do a Btw4g Digital Devotion, and it's called Pursue. And it's lovely to be able to do something from this company, Btw4g. Obviously, this is not the main devotional for the month. I still am hoping and praying that they can put it out in digital forms. But in the meantime, I'm happy to do these mini little devotions. And it's got a few questions which you can answer. And I love the printables. It's minivans with the flowers on top. And the theme of the passage they're looking at is Psalm 23 verse 6, that your goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life. And I've love these little animals with it. I assume it's because dogs are sometimes following us. Their companion, and these little ducks also behind the girl. And this word, radar, I will talk about in a minute. This is just the Hebrew word, I assume, for the word follow. And yeah, I'll talk about that in a minute. And yeah, it's just beautiful printables. And I'm looking forward to make use of this devotion. So I was inspired by Jessica from Jessica Crowned by Jesus. She decided to do all her digital devotions from Btw4g in a traveler's notebook, just to keep it all together. And I make my own traveler's notebooks. And my measurements is usually 20 by 21 centimeters. Don't know how much that is in inches, but I'm sure you can look on your ruler. I'm using 160 milligrams cardstock, and I'm just cutting it to that measurements, the 20 by 21 centimeters. And I'm just folding it half to make the inserts of the traveler's notebook. And obviously you can decide how thick you want your traveler's notebook. That is one of the nice things of making it yourself. And then I'm just using a long arm stapler to secure it. This is definitely the easiest way to do it. You can sew it also, but I was very happy to pick up this long arm stapler a while ago. And it's, yeah, as I said, it's one of the best investments I've definitely made into my craft room. So obviously I'm just folding it over, making it nice and flat. The next thing you need to make sure is that your traveler's notebook fits inside. So I think this devotion is anyway a sort of a typical standard traveler's notebook size. So that probably should not be a problem. But that's just something I've made sure beforehand. So I'm just securing it in there, making sure it's all, as I said, together. And so yeah, it will just work much easier if I do that to keep everything together. I've decided to show you how I make my traveler's notebook covers also. I'm just using normal cardstock, and this is sort of example of one I've made before. This is from Rosie Studio cardstock, and I thought it will work perfect for cover. And what I do is I cut the cardstock about a half or a 3/4 inch wider than my traveler's note insert. So obviously when you bend it over and your traveler's notebook bulk up, that you will have enough space when it folds over, that everything will be nice and tucked in there. And then I just use these foam squares or foam which you can buy in the craft foam, that's what it's called, in the shops. And then I'm just using it from the insides of my traveler's notebook. And I'm going to put the cardstock, and I'm going to secure it with double-sided tape. I'm going to put it on top of this craft foam. Now what I do is I take the backing of the double-sided tape halfway off, because I want to sort of gradually put the foam on top of the cardstock. It's probably not 100% necessary, but I just think it's rather safe than to be sorry. And I also cut the craft foam much wider, or a fair amount wider than the cardstock. So I don't have to worry so much of putting it exactly at the right spot. And then gradually I'm just taking the backing of the double-sided tape off. And then I'm just making it nice and flat. It's just a nice way to secure that the backing of the foam is nice and secure on the cardstock. And then you get this almost faux leather look type of effect with a flexible insert of a cover, and just makes it more durable, and it gives this faux leather effect. You can obviously use brown craft foam also. That will maybe give it a more effect of leather, but I just had that in my stash, so I decided to use it. So I'm going to put the holes inside my traveler's notebook cover. And what you need to make sure is just very, very important that you must make the holes wide enough apart from each other so your insert of your traveler's notebook fits in very, very easily in there. So your traveler's notebook insert mustn't cover over your holes. It must be inside your holes, if that makes sense. And then in the inside, I've just used one of these sharp instruments, I don't actually know what you call it, to make a smaller hole in the middle, which I'm going to secure the elastic band, and that's going to be sort of the elastic band that comes around my traveler's notebook. So I'm just using normal clear double-sided sort of paper of which you cover your workbooks and your school books with, and I find it's a very easy and cheap way of making these traveler's notebook covers. It just makes it nice and secure, it makes it doesn't get dirty, and it just makes it more durable. I think you can probably laminate it also, but lamination might be a little bit stiff and hard, so if you bend it in the middle it might crack. I don't know, I've never tried it, so that's maybe something you can try yourself. So I'm just going to use one of these eyelets, white eyelets, to put inside the holes of my traveler's notebook cover. I'm just using, probably not my crocodile, but you know what I mean. It's not the real crocodile you get from Memory Keepers, whatever that company is, but it's mine. And what I'm doing now is I'm just using the elastic. I just make it a very, very simple method. I just want to keep it as simple as possible. There's hundreds of ways to do a traveler's notebook. You can look it also up on YouTube. So I'm just putting the elastic through these two holes at either side, and I'm just securing it, not too tight but also not too loose, just to make sure my traveler's notebook insert is going to fit in there perfectly. Then I've actually realized that I actually wanted to have more than one insert, but I've just made one hole in the traveler's notebook. It would have been more perfect if I made two holes in either side of the bend of the traveler's notebook. That would have made that I could make put two elastic bands in there, so I can have space for more traveler's notebooks. But then I decided I'm just going to thread two elastic bands through the one hole, and that should be fine if you don't have such a thick insert. I can just stretch it to elastic bands like I do now, and I'm just putting my one insert in, and if I want to fill the book with another insert, I can just make use of the other elastic band in the middle. I'm going to cut those excess ones later off so it won't look so messy and will bulk the insert up. So I'm now going to put the outer part of the elastic band, which comes around my traveler's notebook in, and I'm just putting it through that hole. I first made a loop and I put it through the hole, and then I'm just making sure that when it comes over there that it's nice and snug. So obviously you need to go back and forth and just make sure, okay, it's not tight enough, so I must thread it a little bit more through and put it around again, and just to make sure it's nice and snug. And then I just make a double knot there. Nothing, you can probably do much more better ways of securing it, but that's just my way of securing it. And then I'll just cut the excess elastic band out to make everything nice and neat. And this is just then my cover of my traveler's notebook. Very basic, very cheap, but that's just the way I'm doing it. I've decided obviously to decorate my cover of my insert, and I've decided to use this By the Btw4g little truck, which is their trademark icon, and I've put that at the bottom. It was part of the printables, and I'm also using these alpha stickers to write out there By the Btw4g, which is the abbreviation for that. If you use the hashtag, I think that's also the hashtag By the Btw4g. So that worked out perfectly. My G is a bit skew, but I'll probably go and fix that later. So I'm going to start with my entry, and I decided also to be inspired by Jessica. She's been using quite a lot of Versify inks and things like that to give herself a nice background. I wanted to use my Versify ink, but my pink was unfortunately dry, so I went back to my Distress Oxide ink. This is just a nice soft color. I can't actually remember which color this is. I will see if I can link it up here. And I just made the edges. And now I'm going to start with my decoration. I just definitely wanted to dig deeper in this word radab. I don't know if you pronounce it radab or radar, but it means it's more than just follow. It's a chase, it's a run after, is vigorously, it is almost a relentless and aggressive pursuit that God has for us, or that his mercies and goodness is following us. So it's not just like, oh, it's almost like these little ducks just trotting behind this girl. It's almost more. It's almost I think when we have toddlers in our home and they never want to leave us alone, they're constantly following us, they're pursuing us, or even if you're lucky enough, if you had a boyfriend or your husband who pursued you relentlessly, he never gave up, he gave it his all, he made 100% sure clear that you know that he is in love with you, that he wants you. It's almost that pursuit, but probably even more. So it's not just like a follow trotting behind. It's a really pursue of goodness and mercy God wants for us. And that's such a wonderful reminder that he's such a generous God. He lavishes his love and mercies upon us. He just doesn't give it stingily. He lavishes it. He's generous. Ultimately, he gave his life for us. And yeah, that's such a beautiful reminder to remember that God, when he does things, he does it in access. He forgives in access. He gives his mercies and goodness and access. And that says something about him. And it also says something about us. It says what a wonderful and good God he is. And it also says and how desperately in need we are for his goodness and mercy. Because we are desperately in need of his forgiveness and desperately in need of his dependence on our life and his guidance in our life. So yeah, that was wonderful to be reminded of that. I've decided to use these cute little tags. I definitely wanted to put there Psalm 23 verse 6, which is the main verse which they're talking about. And I thought I'm going to use a little paper clip to tag it on there because, yeah, I've got these little paper clips always handy. And it's such a cute way of connecting these little tags. And then I'm just using these little crosses as art marks. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down the verse there on the right-hand side, and I'm going to almost dissect it. I'm going to look at each word. For instance, surely your goodness and mercy shall follow me. Like the surely, I said, it's definitely, it's secure, it's for sure. And then I looked at the word goodness, and I found out what goodness means, and mercy. And the word shall, it's like for certain. And then I actually looked at the word follow and write down what that means. I find that's just a very good way of looking at verses, especially if it's a fairly well-known verse like this one. I'm just showing it in the inside. I've made the inside cover, also just covering it with plastic contact paper, so I can put my printables in there and it's ready to be used for next time. So I hope you enjoyed seeing me how I put my traveler's notebook together and how I do my first entry in this devotion. I hope to do some more. And thank you, Jessica, for inspiring us always. And yeah, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I would really appreciate it. Give it a like if you like this video. And thanks for watching. Lots of love. Bye-bye.